Hello and welcome to a new video here on MTG Ownage. My name is Matt. Today we're going to be looking at someone's commander deck that they wanted me to critique. A Jodah the Unifier deck. Sort of new. I guess it's starting to get a little dated. A few sets back now. I've been a little delayed on this, mostly because I needed to get some new camera equipment. My stand broke and I kind of just put off ordering it for a while, but whatever, it doesn't matter. We're back. Quick introduction of myself other than my name. I'm just a guy who loves Magic. I've been playing it for a really long time, since I was a kid. And I guess I'm known around the commander groups around my area to be someone who ends games and wins a decent percentage. So some people kind of ask me a lot of questions and stuff because I kind of know a lot of the rules and all that. And understand a lot of pretty much all the mechanics and all that, etc., etc. I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but I think I'm an okay player, but I feel weird saying that I'm the best player or something like that. I don't really think that, but a lot of people seem to think I'm really good, so often I get asked to critique decks. And for this guy, Mr. Torian, I said, hey, do you mind if I do it on the channel? And he said, no, go for it. So here we are. So this deck, I think he kind of threw it together very quickly and didn't really critique it. So there's maybe some odd cards in here, but we'll go over those and make some better suggestions. But one thing I really like to do when making a new commander deck is really carefully study the ins and outs of the commander. Okay, like we got Wooburg cost. That's something to note very carefully. It's going to affect our mana base a lot. We got a creature that we really want to stick to the board, Jodah here. We really want him to stick. So we're going to see maybe some sort of protection, racketeering cards. I don't know about racketeering, but all right, he's a 5/5 for 5. He says legendary creatures you control get +X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. So he's the first legend. He's going to give everybody +1/+1. So he himself is actually a 6/6 because he's a legend and will buff himself to a 6/6. Interestingly enough, I think I'm reading that right. Yeah. Okay, and then as if that Anthem effect wasn't enough to make this already good, we have a legendary cascade effect here. Whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value, and then you may cast the card without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So it's basically a legendary cascade, but only cascades specifically from your hand. That way the chain doesn't keep going from this. Like if you hit, obviously you're going to hit a legend. That legend's not going to also cascade like normal cascade because this says specifically from your hand. So that's something to note. So we're still going to need like some card draw and stuff. Alright, so that's the commander. That's what we're going to build around. I feel like it's pretty obvious what you do. You probably want a lot of, a 1 through, what you want legends in the deck of all CMC. And you probably want to go wide and swing hard and fast. That's a pretty generic strategy though, so I was kind of thinking, hey, what kind of combos can we pull off? There aren't necessarily a whole lot with Jodah. He's just good value and he just makes your board state really big. So if that's what you're looking for, this might be a commander for you. You just want a big, juicy, spicy board state that people can't handle very quickly, and you want great value. You want to double up on your spells, buy one get one free type of deal. Might be the guy. So alright, let's take a look at the deck, the 99. I'm going to pause for a second as I kind of do a sort and collect my thoughts. I should also mention, it's kind of relevant to this video and how it's going to play out. It's going to confuse a lot of people if I don't say this. This is a budget deck. All right? We're not trying to break the bank. We're not trying to hit $1,000. Ideally, I'm not going to get like an exact calculation of what it's worth or anything. But ideally, we want to keep the deck build under $100. So we don't want to like say, all right, yeah, your deck can be great. Go spend $1,000, $2,000 on it. Because everybody's got a lot of commander decks. Nobody really has that much to spend on commander decks. Well, some people do, some people don't, but you get the point. It's kind of a budget style, so don't expect to see every single big dog obvious card that needs to be in here that's worth $50 to be in here. Is the point. We're going to find cheap alternatives if we can, which some people might appreciate. The rich folk might not so much appreciate because they're like, why would I ever play that? There's a better option for $70. Ragavan, duh. So just keep that in mind. We're going on a budget. Probably not going to see the $50, $70 cards here. Okay, I'm also seeing here, just going through these cards, that this was potentially built with extras to begin with. So there are some things in here that might seem a little weird, and we'll talk about those and talk about some alternatives that kind of might fit better. But here we go. Here's the initial land base. Land base looks, it's not my favorite land base. A lot of tap stuff, but let's see if it can maybe get the job done. We haven't really seen the 99, but we definitely want to consider that we want to get Wooburg ASAP because your spells become much more valuable when this guy's on the field. So, I don't know, just some quick theory crafting here. Early on in the game, we probably want to cast some ramps, some instants and sorceries. Probably don't really want to cast legends much until Jodah's actually out. You probably want to hold off on that if possible. Maybe you need him out, but you probably want to get him out first and then start casting your legends to get the real value. So yeah, that being said, we're looking at the other spell types for turn 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe just 1, 2, 3, depending on how your ramp goes. But then 4 and 5, you should be having him out and should start getting the real value. And hopefully have the interaction to not let somebody else win that quickly. So we're going to kind of try to keep that kind of stuff in mind as we go. Alright, so let's look at the basics here. We got a mountain, plains, forest, swamp, mountain, island, plains. And that seems to be it for the basics. Now, he's obviously got these galaxy, very nice art lands. I don't know, it's just what he had in here. And maybe that kind of determined which ones he put multiple of. I don't really understand the double red here. Maybe there's some double red thing. I guess there's that. We'll get to that. But I didn't really see anything else really with a lot of double red. I guess that's double red, double blue. Or triple blue. Triple red, I mean. But I don't really see an exact rhyme or reason why it would be these two colors with the multi-lands. Now in reality we probably want at least 2 of each basic. I'm seeing a lot of double blue, double white, I'm seeing double everything. That's something you gotta watch out for in these multicolored decks. Some spells do become a bit hard to cast. Here's kind of the ramp package. A little light. We do have a Kodama's Reach. That's good, but you do need green. So if you're going with a bit of a ramp package like this and a lot of it's green, you need to make sure you get green. So you might want a few extra forests in there. Arcane Signet's amazing. Ornithopter Paradise, really good. Kodama's Reach, I think, is really good here, too. Land Grant, I don't quite understand the Land Grant, really, here. Yeah, it's a free spell. It doesn't ramp you, though. It just puts a forest into your hand. But it can get things like Tri-Lands and stuff like that. However, I didn't see any Tri-Lands in here. Or really any forest of note. Yeah, I guess we got, like, Haunted Mire and Woodline Ridge. So Land Grant could get that kind of stuff to help fix you a little bit. But you can only cast it either for 2 mana or free by revealing your hand. I don't know, I think it's actually okay here. It's not that bad, given that it's also a swamp, it's also a mountain, and whatever else we might find here, forest type. So it's kind of cool. Oh wait, there's white mana. Yeah, it does have every color covered. So we can essentially fix this, the mana with the Land Grant too. I guess that's not bad. Usually you see this in like something with only like 4 lands total. Not a card I'm used to seeing, but it's not bad. I think it's worth keeping in. It's a cheap spell. It is going to help you fix. Unfortunately, it has to get a tap land. It'd be better if it could get shocks, but those might be out of budget. That's fine. It is what it is. And the other ramp spell here we can look at is Slimefoot's Survey. Search for 2 lands that have a basic land type. Put them on the battlefield tapped. That's pretty good. I mean, it's 5 mana. It's very expensive, but it can get these and just kind of get you fixed really quickly. I don't know about really quickly for 5 mana though, that's a bit pricey. Then it says, look at the top X cards of your library, X is the number of basic lands among the lands you control. Put one of them on top, the rest on the bottom. Okay, so it does like a big scry as well, which is not too bad. I don't know about this card. The 5 mana is what steers me away, but it's not too bad otherwise. So I think it's okay to keep in budget here. We definitely gotta sort out something with these lands though a little bit. They're not too bad though. A lot of stuff coming in tapped. That's really gonna slow you down. The thing about these tapped lands is a lot of times they do set you back a full turn. This one definitely sets you back a full turn given that it bounces one of your other lands. So I probably wouldn't play this. Although I kind of get it. I'm going for a cheap mana base here. So we're gonna kind of set aside the ones that don't come in tapped. These caves, the shock lands. We got one fetch here, which could fetch anything, given that we have a lot of these multi-types. We just need to make sure it's plains or mountain. So it could get, end up getting a forest. It could end up getting another forest. It could end up getting island. It could end up getting island there as well. So essentially, we could get any color with Arid Mesa. That makes it pretty good, being a 5-code land there. And we got all these tap lands with types. I'm gonna put them all in a stack over here. Let's see what we got. I think there's basically one of each. We also have these artifact lands, which are indestructible. Not 100% sure why these are in here either. They're kind of known to be not very good tap lands unless you have some sort of strategy around the indestructible or wanting multiple artifacts. So we'll see if that plays out. We'll put those in their own stack for now. I got a couple crystal grottos, obviously not legal, probably just a mistake, so one of those will definitely get cut. I don't think this is too bad of a land in the deck. The Scry one is surprisingly good. This does come in untapped, and you can filter. Kind of sets you back a mana for the turn to filter, but it is a way to get that last color you need if you really need it. So it's not the worst land. I love that it comes untapped and it scries. That's not bad. Dark Depths, I have no clue why this is in here. It's probably going to get immediately cut. It doesn't seem to combo with anything here or anything like that. Uncharted Haven, yeah, it gets you 1 mana of the chosen color, comes in tapped. There are better versions of these that already have a color, and then you choose the other color that are a little better, so I think that's not going to make the cut. But I see the point. It is any color land. That's nice. I got some Boil Works. These are sometimes okay. I really don't like them when you have a lot of tapped lands, though. I guess there's 9, 10 tapped lands so far. If you end up bouncing a tapped land, it feels really bad because then you're going to bring it right back out. It comes out tapped. But we'll go with a maybe on those. They can be okay sometimes. Bloodfell Caves, not a huge fan. Kind of in the same boat as these artifact lands. Swiftwater Cliffs. At least we're getting duels, though. There's the Tangled Islet. So he's got all 10 of those. That's kind of cool. Those could obviously be upgraded to shocks later. If you wanted to keep making the deck better, just turn those into shock lands directly better. We've got some more gates here. Comes in tapped. Another one of those vault bridges. Another artifact land. And Treva's Ruins. I don't think we can keep this in here. It's just going to slow you down too much. So we got like 5 lands that we need to cut. Some that are okay. We probably want to get another Island Swamp Forest in here. So these could easily turn into that. And then we could add a couple more. I didn't really count the lands though. So let's give a quick count. 2, 4, 6, 2, 33, 34. I think 34 is okay if you got a really good ramp, cheap ramp package. Might be a little light with only 5 ramp spells and one of them being 5 though. So I think we either need to go up to about around 10 ramp spells and keep it 34. That's not too bad. We could probably deal with that on the lands. So I'm going to set these aside now. Okay, here we go. All right, we're looking at the 99 now. Or not the 9. It is done. We've been in the 99 since the lands, but we're looking at the actual spells and non-ramp spells in theory. All right, so we want to find what I'm hoping to find in here is kind of like a nice ramp of legends from 1 to 5, 6 CMC where Cascade could kind of work decently. Like if you play a 5-drop, you want to be kind of likely to hit a 4-drop. If you play a 4-drop, you want to be kind of likely to hit a 3-drop, etc. That's kind of the dream Cascade scenario. Now obviously they don't keep cascading, so you're only going to get 1 per cast in any case. Something really important to think about before we dive into these cards too much is, and this is something you should think about with every commander deck, how does this deck win? All right, sure, playing cards is fun. Playing solitaire can be fun, not for the rest of the table, but maybe for you. But ultimately, we want to take home the W. All right, how do you take home the W? You could build a big board state, but then what? Someone's probably just going to board wipe, unless you kill him on the same turn with haste or something. So we're going to try to keep that kind of stuff in mind. Now, ideally, I mean, it's kind of written on him that you flood the board with legends and then you swing out with giant legends. That's basically what he wants to do based on his text box. Is just flood the board with legends and they all become giant because of him, and it's easy to flood the board because each one gets another one. So that's probably the initial strat we're going to look at. That means this deck is going to be a little weak to constant fogs shenanigans. It's going to be a little weak to board wipes and things like that. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of counter play in those realms. Probably also going to be a little weak to combo because people just combo off and who cares what your board state is. It doesn't even matter. So maybe we'll see some stacks pieces. Maybe we'll see some counters. I've looked through a little bit so I sort of know, but I just wanted to give that preamble. Don't have these in order of CMC yet. We'll probably get there, but first I just want to go through the cards quickly and just talk about maybe their ceiling and just how good they could be. Spark Double in foreign. This is basically a clone. I think it comes in with a +1/+1 counter, and I think it can clone Planeswalkers too. It doesn't really fit here. It's not a legend. It will come in as a legend, but it won't cast as a legend, and it's going to die to the legend rule. So I think this is an immediate cut. This is not a card that really works. You can't even cascade into it. I don't quite get why it would be in here. It just doesn't really seem to... I don't see how it's going to help, really. Alright, next we got General Marhalt, Eld's Dragon, 4 mana, 4/4. Whenever creature you control becomes blocked, it's +3/+3 for each creature blocking it. This is not bad. It's no foyer. It's not bad for a go wide strategy, because, you know, especially if you've got Trample. If you've got Trample, he's a lot better. He doesn't really give you much value. He's just kind of... He just makes your board even bigger. You can almost think of this as like a +3/+3 static bonus, which is not bad. I don't know, not quite though. I think we keep him initially though. He does combat stuff, which is what we want. Combat stuff's good, so he's not bad. Alright, we got Bortuk Bone Rattle, 6 mana, 4/4. ETB, if you cast it, choose a creature card in your graveyard. Turn to the battlefield. If the mana value is less or equal to the number of lands you control. Otherwise, put it in your hand. Okay, so he's going to get you something back. 6 mana. I feel like he's a little lackluster for his 6 CMC. 6 CMCs are really high. And he's not going to be that effective. He's going to, like, get you something back. And maybe... Well, he is going to ideally cascade at the 6. That's nice. And he's also going to potentially bring something from your yard back, like this guy. Could be good, too. I think it's got potential. I think it's not terrible. I really just don't like the 6 CMC. I just think it's too high for what he does. But if he does get you something back into play, he kind of pays for himself. So it's not too bad. We'll keep him in. I think that's a keeper. We got Ramos. Most people know what Ramos does. He gets bigger as you cast spells. He can remove 5 of his +1/+1 counters and make Wooburg once per turn. The big flyer. He's a legend. I think we just go ahead and keep him. He's just kind of nice utility and a flyer, and he'll be a big flyer. We got Multani, Yavaman's Avatar, a 6 mana reach trample +1/+1 for each land card and you control and each land card in your graveyard. Pay 2, return 2 lands to their owner's hand, return them from your graveyard to your hand. So potentially you can later cascade. It's not too bad. Reach trample's nice. Trample's going to be really nice in this deck because things are going to get huge as you get a big board state, so you want them to have trample. I think he's initially a keeper. Like he might not be the best card for this deck, might not be the biggest meta for the deck, but I think he's okay. I think he's alright. We got the big drops. I'm gonna put the 6 CMCs over here. I'll kind of line them up here. 4 there. Alright. Well, okay, we got the Myojin of Towering Might. 8 mana, 8/8. Enters with an indestructible counter if you cast it from your hand, which I think you're gonna have to do here. I don't see many ways to cheat him in. We'll get to that. Actually, there are a few, but I think they're gonna get cut because they don't really fit with Jodah. Alright. ETB, indestructible if you cast it from your hand. Remove the indestructible, distribute 8 counters, and they all gain trample. That's really good. That's a good game ender. 8 mana. He's going to cascade nicely. Hopefully you don't hit a 1-drop with him. But it's got potential. It's kind of like a Crater Hoof in this case, and it's a legendary. Because that's probably what you're going to use it for. You know, after your opponents declare their blockers, we'll say, you could give a bunch of them trample and finish the game anyway. So I think he's okay. He's 8 mana. He's going to be really hard to get to. You need a lot of ramp. So we're really got to sort out the ramp scenario if we're going to play an 8-drop like that. Alright, Roaring Blades Myojin. Alright, he's a 7/4. Indestructible if you cast from your hand. Remove it. 7 damage to each of 3 targets. So up to 21 damage. Split between 3 targets. Not bad. 8 mana. A little pricey. Like to see the trample. Maybe it's going to just remove final threats before getting in there. I kind of see the potential here. I just feel like 8 mana is a lot. I think we'll... the 3 red pips is kind of hard too. This guy's kind of questionable. I think he's okay, but I really wish he did either was a little cheaper or something. I don't know. I just don't feel like it's going to be that. We'll keep it in for now. It's, you know, we don't want to change it too much. Rith, Liberated Primeval, 5/5 flying ward 2, gives your other dragons ward 2. 5/5 for 5 flying is nice already. Beginning your end step, if a creature, planeswalker, and opponent controlled is dealt excess damage, you get a 4/4 red dragon. Okay, that's a nice little backup dragon. It's not a legendary dragon or anything that he creates, but he's legendary himself. He's not bad. I mean, I think initially we keep him in here. He goes in that 5 slot, not too bad. Alright. And he's going to be huge because of Jodah, ideally, and a nice thing to cascade into from the 6s or 8s. Alright, Solkanar the Tainted. He's a 5/5 for 5 in the Grixis colors. At the end step, choose one that has been chosen. Draw a card. Each opponent loses 2, you gain 2, or he deals lightning bolts something, or he goes to an opponent. I don't know how I feel about this guy. He doesn't really have. I'd like to either see some sort of evasion, like flying or something that Rith has. He's a little bit of card advantage. He draws you a card, which is not the worst. Eventually, he goes to an opponent. Not a huge deal. He can ping something. He's got some decent utility. I just feel like there's probably going to be a better choice. You probably want something that's going to like buff your board or make your trampling army or your big Jodah army a little scarier. But him flipping to the other side eventually could be annoying. However, that is 4 turns. Now, just a little quick theory, that's not really a downside in Commander, because if this is sitting on the field for 4 rounds of people playing, the game's already over. Like, that's basically never going to happen unless you cheat him out on like turn 1 or turn 2. Games don't go that long. Most games end on turn, round, we'll say 7 or 8, sometimes 9. They rarely get to 10, at least in my experience. So basically, you can kind of think of him as like he's never going to have this downside for the most part, especially played late game. That's just a lot of turns to go around of people not killing each other in Commander, which it just doesn't happen. All right, it just doesn't. People pop off, games end, turns get really really long. I think he's okay because he doesn't really. We can kind of say he doesn't have that downside. Garth, amazing, fits perfect in this deck. I love it. Well, not perfect, but it gives you a lot of utility. He's Wooburg. You can cascade him to him. He cascades nicely into other stuff. It gets you Disenchant, Brain Geyser, Terror, Shavan Dragon, Regrowth, Black Lotus. And if you have ways to bounce or flicker him, you can do all those again. I think he's just a keeper just because he's cool and he's utility. Temporary lockdown. Exile everything with mana value 2 or less until... yeah, not really feeling this card. Maybe it's good. Maybe it is. Like, that's the definitely cut, right? We'll put this in the maybe keep pile. What do we got here? We got stand and deliver, prevent 2 damage. That's not good. Or bounce a permanent for 3 mana. Any permanent. Could even bounce lands. That's kind of interesting. I don't really know how I feel about this card. My initial feeling is that I don't like it. I really like that it can bounce any permanent, but that is a 3 mana thing to leave open. Just bouncing, like on one-on-one, bouncing someone's Karoo land or something, it's just detrimental. Sets them back like 4 mana or something crazy. One of the reasons I don't like playing those Karoo lands too much. And by Karoo lands, in case you don't know, it's like these Boilworks. Come to play tapped, bounce the thing. If someone bounces or destroys these, it sets you back so far. And this card allows you to actually do that, but in other cases, it's just going to bounce something that's going to come right back. I don't know. I think it's probably a cut overall. We can find better removal, I think. Void Rend, great removal. We're keeping that. I'm going to put removal over here, I guess. I'm going to go put a 3 CMC slot there. Abzan Charm, exile a creature with power 3 or greater, draw 2, lose 2, or distribute some counters. Not real sure how I feel about this either. It's not bad, though. I think it's an okay keeper card for now. Recoil bounces a permanent, and then they discard a card. I don't think it quite fits here. It's not bad removal, but for 3 mana, something they're just going to, they're not really going to care that much, I don't think. And it doesn't really fit with the rest of Jodah theme, so we'll probably cut that one. Negate is awesome. I think if you're expecting a board wipe or something, you definitely want to just save this in your hand with the mana open. Great card. Essence Scatter is only going to counter someone's creature spell, which means it's not typically going to stop a board wipe or something messing up your board state really bad. Not great protection, but it could be good at stopping someone's commander or Dockside Extortions or something like that. I don't know, I think it's a little iffy. I'm going to put it in the iffy pile. Keep safe, counter target something that targets what counter spell that targets a permanent you control, draw a card. Yeah, this could be kind of hard to use. If you're getting single targeted a lot, which Jodah probably will be, this could be pretty good. I think the problem with this is it doesn't stop a board wipe. If someone plays like Damnation or something like that, this does nothing, and it's going to feel bad having this in your hands, and you'll just be thinking like, man, I wish I had like any counter that could counter that instead. Who cares about drawing a card? I need to counter this board wipe, and this can't do it. So that's that's the scenario I tend to find myself in with these. Or someone plays like some bomb piece of their combo and that needs countered and all you got's this. So I think this is just a cut. Although it has a lot of potential upside, drawing a card, protecting your commander, I think it's just too narrow and will often just sit in your hand unused. So I think it needs cut. Ivy, Gleeful, Spell Thief. Okay, a 2 mana legend. Whenever a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy, you may copy it and target Ivy. Not really sure how this fits in yet. It is a 2/1 flying legend, which is not bad. Especially when it gets buffed with Jodah. We'll see. I'm going to put this in the keep pile for now and then assume there's some things that we have that target buff. I haven't seen it yet. Oh, other than Abzan Charm, I guess. Yeah, you could Abzan Charm something and get it. But that's a very small thing. That's not like an entire reason to include Ivy. You need something better, I think. Alright, Wrath, Weatherlight Stalwart, 2 mana legend, nice. 1/3, when you cast an instant or sorcery, you may untap. You may tap 2 untapped creatures you control and draw a card. Alright. I don't think we're probably not going to want to do that. The tap thing, because, you know, we're going to have big giant creatures. We probably don't want to tap them down, unless it's like end of opponent's turn when we're about to untap anyway, then it's not so bad. 5 mana, creatures you control get +1/+1 in vigilance until end of turn. That could be pretty good when you got a big board state and you want to swing, but you don't want to be wide open. You could pay the 5 and say, okay, they've all got vigilance. That's not the worst thing ever. It's very expensive, though. I guess this guy's okay for now. He is a 2-drop legend, and we do need those. Hero's Blade. This is okay here. It's basically 2 mana free equip in this deck. +3/+2, and that's basically it. Because, you know, when a legendary ETBs, you can attach this to it, so you never want to pay the equip cost, which is kind of nice. But also, that was my cat, it's only a +3/+2, no other effects, no haste, no trample. I think ultimately this gets cut, just because, like, Jodah already does this sort of buffing, and if it's not enough, you need something else other than just more buffing. You need, like, trample or something. I don't know why my cat's meowing at me. I guess he's wondering. So that's probably going to get cut. If he sits, he fits. If he fits, he sits. Say hi to Mittens, guys. Alright, he's out of here. He's going to keep meowing at me. I don't even know why he's meowing at me. He just does that. He's a very talkative cat. He's always been a very talkative cat ever since he was a little kitten. Alright, Contractual Safeguard. It's hard to say. 3 mana instant. If you cast a spell during your main phase, put a shield counter on a creature you control. Just one shield counter. And that's kind of a... Choose a kind of counter on a creature you control. Put a counter of that kind on each creature you control. Okay, so ideally, from what I've seen so far, it looks like we're looking for either to put +1/+1 counters across your board, or to put indestructible counters across your board with these guys, which could be actually quite good. That could be quite devastating. And if you do it during your main phase, you get the shield counter, and then you put the shield counter on everything. Huh. Yeah, I kind of like this, actually. It's not too bad. It's good at protecting your board. It could instant speed indestructible your whole board. I don't think it's the best card in the world or anything. It's kind of situational. It might sit in your hand a lot. But like its worst case scenario is it can at least shield up your entire board, which I think is okay. So yeah, I think we keep that. I kind of like that. I haven't really looked at that card before. Niv Mizzet Perun. All right. The mana pips here is why this is going to get cut. This is obviously a really great card that does a lot of amazing things, but you really got to be in like a 2-color deck to even cast this. In this deck, you'll either have to ramp to get these specific colors, which means you're going to cut off a lot of your other stuff because you're going to, you know, not get the blue and red. You know what I'm saying. You're going to either have to specifically search for these lands just to play this, and this is really good. It's going to draw you cards and stuff. And if you cascade into it with one of those Miojums, it's amazing. But a lot of times this is just going to sit in your hand and never be cast. I think this is probably a cut, just because it's going to be too hard to cast. Which is a little sad. And I don't really see how it synergizes with the rest of the deck. Obviously your opponents... This draws cards even when your opponents cast instances and sorceries. And it pings things. It's all really good. You can't really deny that it's good. It's just going to sit in your hand too much, I think, and never be cast in a lot of games. So I think that's the reason it needs to go. Dragon Arc, 5 mana artifact. You can pay 2, tap it, put a multicolored creature from your hand onto the battlefield. Normally this is really good. Well, no, it's not. This is not very good. It's basically 7 mana to cheat a creature into play. 5 plus 2 more. Which is not really good. I mean, that's more expensive than most of these already, except for the Meogems. But you wouldn't want to cheat these in, because then you don't cast it and you don't get the indestructible. So, yeah, right off, I think that's a pretty hard cut. Yeah, there's the hard cut pile. And this is like the probably cut. It just doesn't work really in this deck. It could be good. Now, just to play a little devil's advocate, it could be good if you play this at instant speed. Like, it doesn't say activate as a sorcery, so you could wait for your opponent to attack, suddenly activate this trade, or you could do it at the end of your opponent's turn. If you're planning on doing this as sorcery speed, it's absolutely 100% cut, no doubt. If you're planning on maybe doing some combat tricks with it, it's okay. However, it's a non-bow. It kind of ruins... Like, if you cheat a multicolored creature in with this, it does not cascade, because it's not cast. So it's kind of just not for Jodah. Like, maybe you play these in a different deck, but definitely not Jodah, the Unifier. If opponent draws a card, you can pay 1, draw a card. I think this is just in here to get some card draw. Not really needed, I don't think, because there's already so many big bombs that you're not really going to have mana to spend on this, I don't think. So I think this just gets cut. We'll find something better for drawing. We got Kennerud Sky Knight, 5 mana, 3/3. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery, create a soldier. I'm not feeling this one. 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer is not great. And you cast instant sorcery, get a little soldier. Soldier's not legendary, doesn't really do anything with Jodah. He only buffs what? Well, he only buffs legends. He won't even buff those soldiers. So basically, this is just a plain old 3/3 flyer for 5, which is not really the ideal creature. I think he gets cut. We can just find something better. Alright, Zar Ojin, Scion of Frava? Jeez, what a name. 5 mana, 4/4, Cat Warrior. Whenever it becomes tapped, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with toughness less than the number of basic lands among lands you control. That's never going to proc. Well, the reality is, most of the time, you're ideally going to have Jodah out, because, you know, he's always available, and you want to get that Wooburg, and you want to have him out. So he's going to be buffing your board, and they're going to be way bigger, toughness-wise, than the number of lands you control, like, all the time. And if not, you're probably losing, and this guy's not... You don't need a 5 mana 4/4 to pull you ahead. I just don't think he's quite the fit here. He's basically a 5 mana 4/4 that does nothing else, which is a terrible value when you put it that way. So I think that's going to get cut. Alright, Chainer, Dementia Master, 3/3 for 5. All nightmares get +1/+1. I haven't seen any other nightmares. Okay. 3 black mana, pay 3 life. Put a creature from a graveyard under the battlefield under your control. Oh, it's this Chainer. Okay, when he leaves, exile all nightmares. It turns them into nightmares. Okay, the 3 black pip in a 5-color deck is an immediate cut. Like, it's just really hard to get 3 black when you're trying to fix for Wooburg right off. Like, you might get him out late game, or you might cascade into him, but holding up the 3 black, I don't know. I don't think this guy is where it's at. Now, there are some cases where he could be okay, but I think it's just too narrow. We need stuff that's more consistent. That's something I haven't really talked about yet in this video, but a lot of times what you want in these commander decks, if you want to consistently win, is you need a consistent deck. And if it's not consistent, then I would call Chainer inconsistent. Mainly because of just the sheer amount of black mana it needs in a 5-color deck. You're gonna have a hard time activating that in general. So I don't think he's the spot. Although I do like that it has a lot of potential tricks, my casket or something. Alright, next card. Let's see, we got Urborg Uprising. Return 2 target creatures from your graveyard to your hand, draw a card. 5 mana sorcery, that's instant cut. That's not where we want to be at all. It's 5 mana. Not, yeah, whatever. Don't even need to talk about it, I don't think. It's too narrow. Once again, it's going to be hard to use. I guess the one thing I'll say about this assumes that you are losing and that you have 5 extra mana to spend while you're losing. That's kind of what this says, and it's just not... no, that's not what we want. We don't want to be losing, and we don't have 5 extra mana when we are in that bad state. We need something better. Alright, Vraska, Golgari Queen, 4 mana Planeswalker. Uptick, sack a permanent, gain life, draw a card. -3, destroy a non-land with CMC 3 or less. And his -9 is whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, it loses the game. Don't really know why this is in here. There's no real sack theme, so I don't know what that's for. Destroying stuff is nice, but I just don't quite understand what the goal here is and how this works with the other cards. It's a little removal. A -3 is nice, but I don't think this is the deck for it. I feel like this is not where we want to be in this deck either, so that's going to be a cut. And the Veneral's Disc, I'm also not sure here how this plays into the rest of the deck either. Typically, we're going to want to have a big board state, so wiping our own board and artifacts, creatures, and enchantments is going to be really bad for us. Now, obviously, you do this when you don't have the big board state, which makes sense, but I think we want more of a sudden surprise board wipe in this sort of deck if we're going to have one. Ultimately, I don't think we really need one, just because how it wants to scale up anyway. I don't think this fits here. It doesn't. It just doesn't really. All right, Thoran, Temporal Gateway, 4 mana artifact, legendary artifact. Wait, legendary spells cascade. Oh, okay. So this could actually cascade, and you could cascade into it because it's legendary. What? Am I missing that about any of the other ones? I guess you could do that with the Planeswalker too. Not that that makes it much better. The Dragon Arc is not legendary. Okay, just checking. That makes this a little better than Dragon Arc. It still has 4 mana to activate, and you don't get the cascade triggers if you activate it. I don't think these are where we want to be with this deck. I think we just want to ramp into our big spells instead of trying this kind of shenanigans. Just because this stuff doesn't work with Jodah really when you cheat it in like that. I don't think it's quite the fit for this deck. Alright, Rulik Mons, Warren Chief, 4 mana, incredibly hard to cast probably, 3/3 menace. Attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it on the battlefield tapped. If you didn't, you get a goblin. I like that he has menace. I don't feel like this really synergizes well with Jodah otherwise. I feel like we could just find a better creature that's easier to cast. Yeah, I don't think... 4 mana, maybe ramp, but you have to swing to even do it. Is hard to work with. It's not going to be that effective at that point. Alright, Release to Memory, a 4 mana instant. Exile target opponent's graveyard. For each creature card exiled this way, get a 1/1 color spirit creature token. Not really sure how this works with Jodah either. Colorless, it has nothing to do with legendaries. It's just kind of some expensive graveyard hate. And the tokens you get don't even really work with Jodah. So I think that if you're going to hate graveyards, you probably have a better card for that. It's not this in this deck. We'll cut that. Beseech the Queen. It's a demonic tutor, basically. Search your library for a card with converted mana cost. I don't know. It is a tutor. What are we tutoring for, though, is the question. I don't really know. We'll put this in the maybe cut pile. I just don't know what we're tutoring for. Or why we would want it exactly. Usually you want tutors in combo decks. This isn't exactly a combo deck. It's more of like a build-up value. You probably want to like draw a bunch of cards for as cheap as possible and just build up a big board state, get haste with this sort of deck, and trample. And then win that way. That's just Jodah. This is, I think, Crushed Descent. It's like a 4 mana counter unless they pay 2. And then you amass 1 or amass 2. It's a really bad counter spell, and Amass doesn't really have any great effect here. Amass is not legendary or anything, doesn't work with Jodah. I'm not really sure why you'd want a 4 mana counter unless you pay 2. It just there's way better counters. That's just not a good card. Repel the Vile, 4 mana, exile creature instant, exile creature power 4 greater, exile enchantment. 4 mana is just way too much for this. It's just way too much. There's just better cards that are cheap, or not even expensive better cards. Alright, Yavimay Elder. That's another thing you need to consider. This is a 5-color deck. You have a lot of options for really good spells, like a lot of them. You don't want to be playing these like overpriced situational cards that cost a ton of mana. Like, maybe this would be okay if you were mono white and your options were really limited, but we're 5 colors here. You should not be playing this. You should not be playing this. You should not be playing this. We're in 5 color. There's better options. So many. You've got like the whole array of every card ever printed in Magic available to you. Don't play the terrible ones if you can. I mean, that's all I'm saying here. This is not a draft. We have access to a lot of cards here. We're not limited. All right, Yavimaya Elder. The only thing we are limited by is, of course, price. We're trying to keep it budget, but even in budget, you're going to find stuff better than those, I think. It's all my opinion, of course, but that's my initial gut. All right, Yavimaya Elder, 3 mana, 2/1. When he dies, search for 2 basic lands, put them in your hand. Kind of like this guy. The 2 green mana is going to be a little hard. He's also not legendary. I guess he's in here for the fixing, but there's not many ways to sack him unless you pay into him, but that's 5 mana to put 2 lands in your hand. I don't really like this guy. I think he's too slow. I do like that he gets you mana, but it's just going to be inconsistent or overpriced, and I feel like he's going to get you behind trying to use his ability. I think he's a maybe cut. Battle Armor, Artifact Creature Equipment Dog, gives a menace, helps you goad. We don't have any ways of cheating this reconfigure. The big problem with this card is this reconfigure 4. You need like something that says your equipment have equip 0 or something to play this. It's also not legendary, so he doesn't like get huge on his own. So you do have to equip him. I think this is just a hard no, just because we don't have a way of cheating that cost, and it's not legendary. So it just doesn't seem to work. Cloud Key, you could probably count this as ramp here, because you're going to name creature and make your legendaries cheaper to cast. I don't know, though. It just doesn't seem to fit here. Usually you want this somewhere else. I think maybe we'll keep it, though. It's not that bad. It's just not that good either. Network Terminal, expensive Mana Rock. Put stuff in your graveyard. We don't really want stuff in our graveyard. I think we're going to find a better Mana Rock than that. That's not very good. Royal Assassin. I have no clue why this is in here. It doesn't really make any sense. We don't have ways of tapping things. He's not legendary. It just doesn't really make sense. Mathis, Fiend Seeker, 3 mana, 3/3 at the beginning of your end step. Oh, menace. End step, put a bounty counter on a creature the opponent controls for as long as that creature has a bounty counter on it. As when this creature dies, each opponent draws a card. Gains 2 life. I like that he has menace, because he's going to get huge with Jodah and he's going to have menace, but it helps your opponents too much, I think. I tend not to like the cards that help your opponents negatively. Didn't say please. There are better counters. This one basically is counter target spell. Your opponent draws 3 cards. That's terrible. You do not want your opponent drawing 3 cards. You can effectively think of milling someone as having them draw those cards. For the most part, milling your opponents is really bad. You don't want to do it. Of course, countering the spell could be detrimental, but there are better counters if you want to counter that don't give your opponent 3 cards. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 4. Not too bad. 3 mana though. I think that's a maybe cut. We can probably find better ones, but it's not bad. It is a pretty hard counter. I mean, it's soft because they might have a bunch of mana, but 4 is a lot to pay. Alright, counter a spell unless the controller pays 3. If there are 2 more instant sorceries in your graveyard, scry 2. I don't think this is where we're at. Convolute's a little better, because at least it's 4. Not, deny the divine, counter target creature or enchantment spell, exile it. I feel like we're going to find a better counter than that too. And we don't really care about countering creatures too much. You can't stop a board wipe with that. Augur Spree. It is potentially a nice damage buff or a kill spell. I can see how it could work here because your creatures are going to be giant. So you could get that extra 4 damage in, but I don't think that's where we want to be. There's better ways to do that. So that's going to get cut. Join forces, untap 2 creatures, get +2/+2. I think it's just, for 3 mana, it's just not quite good enough. I think we're cutting that. Disruption Protocol costs 1 less if you tap an artifact. There's not a whole lot of artifacts in here, ultimately. We're pretty light on artifacts, so this is basically a 3 mana counterspell. Now, it is directly better than Didn't Say Please, because at least it doesn't give your opponent 3 cards. But I don't think this is quite where we want to be. There's just not enough artifacts. We'll put that in the maybe pile. Banishing Slash. Destroys. Pretty versatile. The 2 white pips basically make it uncastable for the most part, though. Or it shuts off the rest of your turn, because you needed, like, Wooburg, and you don't have it after casting this. I don't know about this. I think it's probably a no, though. I'll put it in the maybe. Nah, we'll put it in the no. It's pretty bad. Take up shield. Lifelink indestructible until the end of turn. +1/+1 counter. This could save 1 creature. I think we want something a little better, though, that could save, like, your whole board, not just 1. I don't really think that's real great. Botfly Swarm. I have no clue. It's not legendary. It's a Death Touch flyer though. That's pretty good at saying no, don't attack me, but you have to leave up black mana. In a 5-color deck, leaving up 1 black could be pretty difficult because it's probably on a dual land or something that you needed the tap for another color earlier. A lot of times, I think this is just not really fit. It's not a legend either. I don't even actually understand why this is in here ultimately. I can see the defensive properties of the Death Touch being nice, but that's kind of narrow and it doesn't really fit the deck. Same with this. It's not a legend. I don't know why that's in here either. Green Seeker. 1/1 Elf Spell Shaper. Discard a card, search your library for a basic land, put it into your hand, shuffle your library. Okay, that could be pretty good for fixing. This deck doesn't have any graveyard shenanigans. Like, well, it has one. Like, the one card that works with the graveyard is this Bone Boartuck guy. So you could discard a big thing and Boartuck it back later. But that's like a weird, not very effective combo. It costs a ton of mana. It only gets you like a semi-small thing. We would rather just cascade or have better ramp, more consistent ramp. I don't think we want that. Lucky Offering, destroy an artifact. With mana value 3 or less, gain 3 life. We're in 5 colors. We don't want a card like this in 5 colors because we just have so many better options. This literally can only hit artifacts. We want something more versatile in a 5-color deck. I'm not sure why that would be in here. Maybe there's just lack of choices at the time, not sure. Same with Smelt. We're in 5-color once again. We don't want something this narrow that's so limited. We could find some nice charms or some nice legends with ETBs that destroy artifacts or something. That's what we would want instead of stuff like this. These just don't really fit. Hammerhand, make something not be able to block basically, or get something haste. I could see the utility here. I just think there are better options, so that's definitely going to get cut. All right, and that's the deck. I didn't count the cards. I think we might have like 1 slot. I think there's only 98 or something here. But otherwise, we're looking okay. We want to fix the ramp up. We want to straighten out this. We got a lot of slots to add in some good stuff that synergizes well with Jodah. We're going to have a nice deck at the end of this. But this is part 1. We've already gone on for quite a while, so I'm going to do a part 2 where I put in new cards and make it better. And we'll see how that goes. But ultimately, what to expect is I'm going to swap these in for stuff out of my bulk boxes that fits better, so it's still going to stay budget. We're going to find some better lands. We're going to check out these maybes and see if they end up making the cut or if we find something better. So look forward to that in part 2. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to see it. Should be the next video. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Good luck with your playing and building. I appreciate you guys.